Diabetes Connections is brought to you by One Touch. Every touch is a step forward. By Dexcom. Take control of your diabetes and live life to the fullest with Dexcom. By Tandem Diabetes Care, makers of the T-Slim X2 insulin pump. And by Real Good Foods. Real food you feel good about eating.
This is Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Diabetes Connections. I'm your host, Stacey Sims. This is one of those breaking news, wanted to get it to you as soon as we could episodes, and this is all about the update for Dexcom's G6. We are taping and releasing this on February 28th, 2019, and the release happened last night, kind of quietly, snuck into the iOS App Store. The information was not released until today, and that's why we're able to bring you this episode. We're going to be talking to Dexcom's Chief Technical Officer, Jake Leach, about the new features, and I have some other questions as well. Before we get to the changes in the app and to the interview with Jake, just really quickly, especially if you are new to the show, you heard me say that Dexcom is a sponsor, one of the 4 sponsors I always list at the top of the show. I want to be clear, Dexcom does not buy the interview. They don't tell me what to say. We haven't had a conversation about what the questions are going to be. They don't send us supplies. I do not get anything for free from any of these companies that we use in diabetes management. I don't think that's a good way to go when you're trying to ask them tough questions. I have these sponsors on the show because I love their products. We have used Dexcom for more than 5 years now, but that doesn't mean I don't have some issues, and we'll bring up some of those. So I just wanted to go through that and let you know. And if you are new to the show and you're listening because you wanted to know about Dexcom, always very popular shows, check out our more than 200 other episodes. Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time now. Every week, I release a new episode with an interview, with inspiration, with information. My background is as a professional journalist. My son was diagnosed with type 1 just before he turned 2, 12 years ago. And between my broadcasting experience and my experience with my son, that's how you get the podcast. So what is this update all about? If you've already put it on your phone, you know, but if you are an Android user or you are new to Dexcom, real quick, 4 points to the update that came out. The one getting the big attention is, Hey Siri, what's my glucose? You can now ask Siri to read your Dexcom glucose readings aloud and display graphs. More followers. You have been telling me you wanted this for a long time. So now you can have 10 people on the share function. 24-hour sensor expiration reminders. This is in addition to the 2-hour and 6-hour reminders that are already there, and the Clarity app right from the Dexcom G6 app. So you don't have to exit out. If you want to check on Clarity, you can do it right from the app. It will be available, they say, to Android device users on Google Play soon. All right, questions about that and many more. Here's my talk with Jake Leach, Chief Technology Officer at Dexcom. Jake, thanks so much for joining me. I know this is a busy time whenever there is new stuff that comes out. Thanks for jumping on and sharing some information with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's just jump right in and start. We'll go through the 4 big changes that were announced in this latest update, and then we'll talk some other stuff if we have time. Let's start with, and I'm afraid to say it because I've already made my phone crazy today, but let's start with, Hey Siri, what's my glucose? Why did you add this? What do you hope people get out of it?
So the idea is it's a feature that is perfect for a hands-free situation where a user wants to know their glucose, but maybe can't pick their phone up. Say they're driving, or maybe they don't have a watch where it's easy to glance, like an Apple Watch, easy to glance their number. They need their reading; it's important, but they can't quite pick their phone up. It's something that we've been wanted to do for quite a while. And with the release of iOS 12 late last year, there's new technology called Siri extensions, which allows developers of apps like Dexcom to develop the Siri shortcuts within our app that can be activated by the user. This feature, the user has to turn it on by going into the settings menu, and they turn on the Siri extensions, and then they record a phrase that when mentioned to their phone, when they say, Hey Siri, and then they say the phrase, it'll read back their glucose. Most people say, Hey Siri, what's my glucose? Or BG, please. But you can record anything. If you want to maybe potentially be more discreet, you record, whatever you want. And what Siri will do in response will repeat glucose value and trend arrow to give you all of that important real-time information.
Are there plans then to expand on that? Because I know that down the line, the dream would be, hey, Siri, what's my glucose? And then, hey, Siri, treat. Any plans that you can share for even going further with Hey Siri and the Google Assistant on Android?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to continue to add features and build on this. You can imagine, you can say, hey, Siri, when does my sensor expire? Hey Siri, how many followers do I have? So there's quite a few things we can add for both Siri and then for Google, the Google Assistant, we're looking at that functionality as well. So the way that we do our app development at Dexcom is we have what we call the feature backlog. And so that's all the different requests that we want to implement on the device. And we basically prioritize them from what's going to impact and help the most users, as well as what's technically feasible. The Siri one has been on the list for a long time, but it wasn't capable on the hardware. But now that Apple made those updates, we can implement it. So it was top on the list. So we've got quite a few others that will continue to integrate. Our goal is to keep bringing new enhancements to all of our apps, the G6 app, the Follow app, and our Clarity app.
So let's talk about the second feature that came out with this update, which is more followers. And my listeners have been talking about this for years. So now you can share with up to 10 people directly from the Share app. This, I would assume, came from feedback from your pediatric patients, from your families.
That's right, Stacey. It was a request. A lot of our pediatric patients have a pretty heavy network of family and others that care for them, and often that number can be more than 5. So we did have patients that were uninviting and inviting followers, depending on the time of the week, because maybe one parent has them on this weekend, or the school nurse, and so all those kind of situations were requiring more than just 5 followers, which was the previous limit. So we've increased it to 10, and so it works the same way. Followers are invited through the Share app, or through the G6 app. The Share page, and they can just invite up to 10.
24-hour sensor expiration reminders. This just adds another layer to what is already there.
That's right. This is another one of the features we implemented after customer feedback on G6. There was a request often that we got about, hey, I'd really like to know 24 hours in advance when my sensor's going to expire, so I'm sure to be ready for it. I know when it's going to happen. I've got my next sensor ready. And so instead of being potentially caught off guard by a 6-hour warning, this gives you a full day to make sure you've got what you need, so that you're not without sensor readings. And so it works the same way as the 2 and 6 hour reminders that were there. It just pops up 24 hours ahead of sensor expiration, and it doesn't have to be activated. It's just automatic. When the user has the new app, they'll see this new reminder.
All right, here's a question from somebody who's been awakened in the middle of the night for an alarm I didn't want to hear. Can you turn that off? I mean, if you know it's going to come at 2 o'clock in the morning, can you not get a sensor expiration reminder?
It will give you the reminder, but that would be a situation where that person's sensor is going to expire at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That means they put it in at 2 o'clock in the morning.
The next day. Yeah, that's what that means. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Just be cautious. We're always concerned about new stuff. That's pretty funny. And then Clarity app right from the G6 app, so you don't have to exit out.
That's right. We've added a new link within the G6 app that links you over to the Clarity app. When you click or you touch the icon, it hops you into the Clarity app immediately. And if the user doesn't have Clarity, so let's say they're a new G6 user, they're not aware of Clarity, when they touch that icon, it hops them to the store, the app store, so that they can download the Clarity app and watch the installation.
So we've got 4 really interesting changes. Before I move on to some other questions, what's your take on this? Better user experience? Just trying to take advantage more of some of the iOS features? The launch of the G6 app, we have both our iOS app and our Android app. So the iOS app went live in the store yesterday on February 27th.
The Android app will be very soon also coming out with the same features. It doesn't have the Siri Assistant, obviously, it's an iOS feature, but sharing with up to 10 followers, the clarity link button. So that'll all be in the Android app as well. And so that will be in the very near future. That will be in the Android store for Android users.
All right.
And the idea really is just to give folks this extra functionality, enhance the user experience, and respond to feedback that we've got from customers about G6.
I know you're all very sensitive about timelines, but when you say very soon or soon, a week, a month, Q4?
No, it's definitely very near future. I don't have the specific date, but it's not. It's in the coming weeks.
Okay, so we'll do an over-under for you then. Will we get the Google version of this before or after, you're going to kill me, Jake, the standalone Apple Watch, right? Because even with this update, you still need the phone with the watch. Any update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Apple Watch functionality is the direct-to-watch functionality. So this is the concept of being able to leave your phone out of range, walk out of range, go to the garden, go for a jog, walk on the beach without your phone. All those things that the functionality of we call direct-to-watch that allows it to happen is in development, and I'm happy to say it's in validation, which means we've developed it, we're confident in the feature, and it's going through testing to ensure it meets all the requirements. But our intent is to launch that this year, but it's going to be in the second half of the year. It does require a new transmitter.
Okay, wait. It requires a brand new transmitter, so for the user?
Right. So the transmitter functionality that enables the direct-to-watch, there's Bluetooth technology changes that we've had to make to enable this, and so what we'll do is we'll start as soon as it's available, we'll start putting in transmitters, and with a new one, they'll have that functionality enabled.
Jake, I'm very sorry, but you cut out a little bit there. You started to say as soon as you have the functionality, you'll start rolling out the transmitters to everyone. It won't have to be a special request. This will be the new G6 transmitter, which is direct-to-watch.
That's right. Yep, it'll be rolled out in the regular transmitter. It won't be a special version for this functionality. We just have to finish the testing, get it FDA approved, and then begin producing it. Okay.
And something went by quickly. I may have misunderstood you. When you are going to be releasing these updates for Android, isn't there a Hey Google? Isn't there a Google Assistant? Is that not going to be a feature for Google and Android users of G6?
We haven't implemented it yet, and so there are accessibility features on the phones that allow you to have the phone speak to you. It's often used by folks who have impaired vision. Mm-hmm. So there is that functionality, but the very simple Google Assistant functionality is not in there yet. It's on our list of items to implement, but it's not in this version.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let me ask you about an update that I have been personally, and it's all about me, Jake, asking for a long time. And that is the Follow app. We've been using Dexcom for more than 5 years. We got the Follow app when you had Share, just a couple of years later. But there have been all these great changes. The Follow app changed color last year. And that seemed to be it. When are you going to update the Follow app?
It's a great question, Stacey. So the good news is we are in the midst of updating it right now. We are adding the ability to follow more than 5 people. So right now you're limited with following 5. So now that we've added functionality for up to 10 followers in the G6 app, we're going to add the ability in the Follow app to follow 10 G6 users. We're also reskinning it to add better graphics, a landscape mode, as well as updated day-night mode. So at night, when you open the app, it won't be the bright white screen. It'll be a darker background. So perfect for parents who are following their kids and want to take a look in the middle of the night without having a bright white background staring back at them.
Is there any thought in that update? And Jake, I haven't talked to you in a while, but the last time I talked to Kevin Sayer, the CEO of the company, I sent him a laundry list curated from my listeners and me about changes we'd like to see in the Follow app, because you got to understand, when you have a kiddo whose phone you don't do a deep dive into every day, they don't tell you everything. So what I'd like to see on Follow is, when's the sensor going to crap out? When's the transmitter going to expire, right? What's the transmitter number? All the things that you get in the G6 app. As a parent of a kid who just dismisses notifications when they come through, I would love to see that in the Follow app. Is there any thought to making maybe a pediatric version where the follower, because I'm glad you can follow more people. I only have one kid with diabetes. I want to see all of his information, not more of other people's information. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yes, that's on our list of items to implement, as well as putting insulin data and event data into Follow, so
Great.
that when action is taken, followers can actually see, was insulin taken, was it marked, and so yes, those are on the list to implement, and that is a common request, is the information about the user in terms of the sensor expiration, transmitter expiration. All of those things that's a common request, and it's high on the list of things to implement. Right. It's not in this first version that'll be coming, or this next version that comes out soon, but it'll be, again, our goal is to keep enhancing each of our apps, and that's top on the list for the follow-up.
Right. Yeah, because, half the time when I'm calling Dexcom for something, they say, what is the sensor, or what is the transmitter number? And I'm like, well, it's at school with my kid. So, I keep the box, I keep everything else, but it would be so handy to have that. And then my son's question, because I don't know if you have other people who are like this. His question is about the sensor number. When you insert the G6, you peel off the piece of paper, and it's got the sensor number on it. That's an important thing to keep, especially if you're going to change, if you have phone issues or other things are going on, you need to keep that sensor number. If I'm trying to remember what happened. We went from the receiver to the phone one time, but you need to keep that number. Twice now we have had to jump in the trash because he just throws it out. So now I take a picture of the sensor number. Any plans to put that sensor number somewhere better than on the world's flimsiest piece of paper? That's the only place it is.
Yeah. No, that's a great request. You could put it in the app, or you could put it even in the Follow app.
You can put it on
number
the
for
box.
that sensor. It is an important number. Exactly.
All right. Well, I got that out. That was Benny's question because, like I said, I've made him go through the trash now twice to get that. I did have a couple of questions from listeners. We've covered most of them. But the main question that comes up, as I'm sure you know, is when people have switched to G6, some of them, like me, have had a seamless experience. We've been very fortunate. We get readings, no problem. We've had terrific sensor experiences. We get the full 10 days. But I talk to a lot of parents of skinny little kids who are not getting that same full 10-day. Are you guys still working on trying to figure out how to make that sensor last longer? I understand sometimes it's just about the reading and wanting to make sure that the reading is as accurate as possible, but it does seem like there are more sensor issues and failures than there were with the G5.
I think it's a great question. We are monitoring G6 performance very closely throughout the beginning of the launch and also current commercial shipments. Anytime you have a sensor where you extend the duration, so you go from 7 days to 10 days, you have more opportunity on an individual sensor to have an issue because it's now on for 10 days. We are looking closely at data similar to when we did the Software 505 update for G4. What that was we launched G4, we gathered a lot of information about how it performed in the field, and then we made quite a few updates to the technology we call the algorithm, which is the brains inside the CGM that takes the sensor readings and turns them into glucose readings that are displayed on the display device. There's quite a bit of complexity and intelligence in that algorithm. And so what we're doing with G6, we're currently collecting lots of information about performance in the field, and then we intend to implement enhancements to G6 that will either provide more data displayed, sensors won't fail as often. I think we're learning quite a bit about G6. It's performing as expected, but as we've rolled it out to many users, we always see areas where we can enhance and make the system better, and so we intend to do that. What's great about what was the G5 and now G6 is that intelligence is located on the transmitter. So it's not like you have to wait a year or you have to wait and do a software update to your display device. Each time you get a new transmitter, there's an opportunity for us to put enhancements into the system, and that's what we intend to do. So I mentioned the direct watch feature, which when as soon as available, we'll start putting that technology in the transmitter. We have the same plans on the sensor performance.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it, that the sensor failures are not necessarily because the sensor itself is that what you're saying? It's not necessarily the way that the sensor is reading, it's the communication with the transmitter, and somehow a better transmitter will alleviate the problems with the G6?
It's a complex analysis of the signal coming from the sensor. So sometimes sensors do expire before 10 days. They aren't sensing glucose accurately, and so we make sure that we turn those off. But sometimes the algorithm says, I don't think this sensor is going to, or it's not producing accurate data when it actually is, or it goes into a period where it's not, it blanks out the information, but then maybe the algorithm's a little bit too aggressive on turning it off. And so when we get lots of data from many different users, it's a great opportunity for us to reassess how everything is tuned and set. And so with G6, we're able to do that with the data coming back from users. And so we have intention to do that.
The G6 was recently approved and okayed in Canada. And pardon my ignorance about how iOS and Android work, but are these updates available for all of the countries in which G6 is available?
That is a great question. So in general, we launch in regions. So in the U.S. is received the latest app features. Outside the U.S., those features aren't available yet. We actually have different, although it's the same, it's G6, it's actually a different app in all the different countries, and that in many different countries. Some countries use the same, but there's differences. For example, many countries in Europe don't use milligrams per deciliter; they use millimoles per liter, and so that difference in the unit requires us to develop a completely different app. Although it looks the same, many features are the same. So what we do often is we roll out the features in our biggest market, which is the United States, and then we follow on with other countries. And so often different regions get the functionality at different times.
Okay, unpleasant question, Jake, and you drew the short straw by being the first one to come on with me since this news came out. The announcement that Dexcom laid off 350 people or will lay off in the coming weeks, didn't sit well with a lot of people for many reasons. First of all, we never like to lose jobs in this country, but secondly, and selfishly, customer service, a lot of concerns about the quality, because with the G6, many people found themselves calling more to replace sensors. Can you assure us that customer service is going to be okay? And are these the only layoffs, or are more coming?
So our focus is the customer experience. We're very focused on that. And so part of this transition is to ensure that customers receive very good customer service, and they don't see any change in their level of support. The changes are necessary for us to be able to support more customers in the future. But we were very, very specific about the folks that have joined our team in other locations outside of San Diego and Arizona to ensure that they can provide the level of support. And so we're doing this transition slowly to ensure that customer service is maintained. We have lots of metrics that we look at and ensure that nothing is going sideways on us. So it's difficult. It's a tough decision, but it was really what we needed to do so that we could continue to support customers in the future and provide the level of support they expect and deserve.
Yeah, I think if I could editorialize for a moment, I think many of us are of two minds of this, and we're talking out of both sides of our mouths in that I want the best and probably to you most expensive customer service, and I want it available around the clock, and I don't want to be on hold for very long. But at the same time, we've seen companies go out of business because they were spending too much or were not making money in the diabetes sphere, and nobody wants that to happen either. So I think the main concern of the the people that I speak to is, will I be on hold for 2 hours? Will my concerns be met? Will I talk to someone who's knowledgeable? And obviously, if those things don't happen, Jake, you know we're quite a vocal community. I'm sure you'll hear from us. Before I let you go, you don't have anybody in your family with type 1, but you do, and I know you've been in the diabetes sphere for a couple of decades now, for more than 20 years. You have a lot of friends that you've made and people that you know personally now with type 1. Are you still excited about these updates? Do you still talk to them? Do you feel like this is really making a difference?
Absolutely. I'm always so excited when I'm testing out some new technology. I get to show it off to a number of our family friends and people that I know that are impacted by diabetes, and just show them what's coming. And really, all of these features, as we continue to roll out new technology, our goal is to make life easier, more normal, get better outcomes with less effort. And so it's all about trying to do the best we can and empower people to take control of diabetes. It can be challenging. It's a challenging disease, but our goal is to make it as easy as we can. And so, yeah, I'm as excited now as I was, actually more excited now than I was when I first started working in diabetes. When I first started, it was insulin pumps were pretty new. Finger stick meters were by far the best way at the time to measure blood sugar. And in my time in diabetes, I've seen us move from CGM that was blinded now to CGM that is real time and reliable, and you can make your diabetes decisions off the information. You don't have to check it with a finger stick. So all of that has occurred within the last 20 years, and there's still much to do. We've got our automated insulin delivery systems. We've got decision support features that will help ease the burden of all the decisions that have to be made daily, helping people make better decisions, making it easier for them, and for physicians as well, to help optimize therapy, help point them and help show issues that are occurring in patients' lives, and so they can help them as well. So, yeah, I'm as excited now as ever.
And I have to just take my reporter hat off for a moment. And as a mom, it's nice to have this opportunity, Jake, to say thank you. Because as I mentioned several times, we've used the Dexcom for years. But the G6, we work very well with no finger sticks. It works great for Benny. We're very fortunate that way. But to have a 14-year-old 8th grader who can get better results by doing less. And we also have the Basal IQ with Tandem's T-Slim X2, so that helps a lot as well. But we used to do 10 finger sticks a day, easy, when he was a toddler, and gradually less over the years, but sometimes still that many. So to have an 8th grader who can go to school and not worry about pulling everything out of his kit and schlepping things, and as I said, to get better results with less effort is pretty amazing, and not at all what I thought would happen when he was diagnosed as just a little kid. So I love the opportunity to say thank you. And I hope you come back on and tell us more about, what's happening as Dexcom moves forward. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Stacey. It was a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
More information at diabetes-connections.com. Updates as we get them. I'll put them out of social media as well. I would highly recommend you join the Facebook group, Diabetes Connections, the group, to stay up to date. And as always, lots of information and links in the show notes, which are at diabetes-connections.com. They're also available for every episode. If you're listening in a podcast app, you can click under details or more information. Every app is a little bit different, but I do work hard to give you kind of more info inside the app as well. I just want to share, as maybe your phone was doing the same thing, when I was talking about Siri at the beginning, before the interview, and during the interview, my phone kept wanting to chime in. I'm an Apple user, and so every time I said, "Hey Siri," she was like, "Yes, how can I help you?" Oh my goodness. Thanks so much for listening. Quick bonus episode here to get you the new information about the Dexcom G6. I hope you will tune into our regularly scheduled program. We drop a new episode every Tuesday, and this coming week we're going to be talking about camp. Never too early to talk about diabetes camp. You're going to be hearing from people from Camp Najeda, a very well-known, well-established camp up in New Jersey, about what happens at diabetes camp, why every kid, they say, should go, and what parents need to keep in mind to make it a great experience for everybody. All right, I'm Stacey Sims, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.